Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, your favorite Giants podcast. I'm your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, and we are back for another season preview here in the beginning of summer. We're post-Memorial Day. We're heading towards the summer solstice, just a couple weeks away. And
summer solstice.
yeah,
Wow.
it'll be a short little break before we're ready for OTAs. So we're really close.
When's your big trip to Stonehenge?
I'm sorry, not OTAs. I meant training camp. Almost close to
Oh.
training camp. Summer solstice. Okay, so the the Neanderthal word for the longest day of the year. Sorry. Which is right before the 4th of July, which is it's the natural break between the spring OTAs and the summer training camp. In any case, it's the little lull. It's the vacation in the off season.
Yeah, I just saw something that there's 12 weeks to go before the start of college football. So you add one more week. We have 13 weeks before the regular season starts. So
Just crazy.
it's coming. Before you know it, it's going to be here.
It just got warm out.
So. Yeah, you wouldn't know it today though. Here in the New York area, it was pretty fall-like.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Or like late winter actually. So it's kind of annoying.
Late winter.
Yeah, it's June 9th.
You think today felt like late winter, 50 degrees with rain?
Yeah, it felt like it was damp.
I was gonna say like maybe late fall, maybe.
Well, I went out to go get my morning Starbucks, and I was just wearing, shorts and like workout short, t-shirt and workout shorts, and it was like, whoops, I should have put a jacket on. Not like, oh, maybe a long sleeve shirt, not like something like this, but like full on jacket. It was pretty gross out.
Late winter to me is cold. It wasn't that
Hey,
cold.
man, anything under 70 to me is cold. So, and just one little quick note as we're recording the beginning of this episode. We're recording this on a Monday night. I am suffering through the end of a Rays Red Sox bottom of the ninth, where hopefully we don't blow this. So if you hear a sudden grunt or a obscenity for no reason, it's not me looking at, the Giants schedule. It's because we blew a lead. So just a heads up. Hopefully we can sit back and laugh when we listen to this on Tuesday. But
I mean, nobody cares.
I don't think. Well, I mean, there may be some Yankee fans listening who hate the Red Sox.
That's true. Yeah, or the Rays. Any chance you can get, to dunk.
Because no, even my parents don't listen to this, so they wouldn't be.
It is the lull though. I mean, we're entering. We're in the Stanley Cup Finals, which is on. Then you're not watching that.
I have a small TV, and that shithead Marchand, who I'd seriously love to beat his ass if I ever saw him. I saw he scored in the first minute.
I'd like to see you try.
Listen, I'll go down. I'll take one for the team, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to watch that right now. But Edmonton's getting their ass kicked. I don't really want to see Florida win. In any case, it is summer, so that means we're entering that lull, which means we're talking about OTA stuff. And the Giants had another OTA that was open to the media, and it was cut short due to a fight. So there was a back and forth between Brian Burns and James Hudson, and then Kayvon Thibodeau got involved with whoever was backing that up, Forsyth maybe.
I think it was still in Forsyth.
Yeah, and then Hudson and Burns came running back in and continued the fight, and then practice ended early. Do you have any thoughts on like a camp fight like that?
No, I don't. I mean, I think what happens is when, I'm a little surprised for an OTA fight, to be very honest.
Same.
But when you're in training camp and you're battling the same guy in the trenches all, for 3-4 weeks every day, you're ready to hit other people. You might be getting sick of the guy across from you. And remember, teams are 40, 55, 60, 65 people. They all don't get along. They all don't love each other. And, offensive linemen and defensive linemen don't always hang out together all the time. So I could see how sometimes these things kind of flare up. In OTAs, I find it a little odd, but no, I don't take much for it.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I mean, it does suck. I think it was. I think it was Brian Burns that was saying that the only thing that he didn't like, he was kind of defending it as like, it's all part of it. It's hot out here. We got agitated, but it's not personal. It's work, whatever kind of thing. Says that an edge is important to him, that sort of thing, kind of looking at the positive side. The only thing he doesn't like is like, you end practice early, you start to lose reps. And again, that's one of those things that instantly in my head I was like, yeah, I agree with that. And then it's like, well, I mean, in training camp, what the hell are we doing? At like OTAs, it's just weird that it happened in OTA. I mean, it's not unheard of or anything like that. I don't know.
That's a full of shit statement, by the way. It's not personal, it's business. Because if it's business, you're not engaging past the echo of the whistle and going into an all out fight. So to me, if you're actually getting into a fight with somebody, that seems a little personal to me. That's not business. Business is you move on to the next rep. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
it's another reason why I just don't care what people say. I'll say this for the billionth time. I don't care what players, coaches, GMs,
Before this rant, I mean, that wasn't a direct quote. I was kind of paraphrasing the situation.
Yeah, that's fine. But even that's the general thought of what was said, and it's just like that's fine. It's better to, I guess, it's better to get the bullshit lines than I really just don't like that guy or something, or he's really pissing me off out here. But I don't think the words don't mean anything to me, and I think really, I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, a guy like Thibodeau is probably feeling some pressure this year, and maybe it's starting early. The pressure. I don't know because it's not a put up or shut up year for Kayvon Thibodeau, but this has to be a year. I think he needs to he's going to hear more than just some whispers about him being, not as advertised for his draft pick. And, I don't think they may not be necessarily related, that stuff, in a fight in OTAs in June, but maybe it's all adding up to him. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure if that's what's going on there, but if we're going to transition sort of the conversation a little bit to Kayvon Thibodeau and pressure, yeah, you're right. I mean, like, I am not naive to think that Kayvon Thibodeau doesn't look at things on the internet about himself. You know what I mean? He's not stupid. I know this hasn't been the career statistically that he's wanted thus far. And again, I think that he's a good player. I think that he's somebody that I want on the defense. I still view a future for him. Where his performances versus his draft status, I think I just have different expectations from the draft than other people. And I still, he's performing as a player that I expected. You know what I mean? I didn't see a guy that was going to be getting like 15 sacks a year on this team from him in college. So I have no problem with his performance thus far, but I think that he demands a lot from himself. And I mean, let's be honest, the draft pick of Abdul Carter is a big one. And it's following the year before the Giants spending a ton and trading for Brian Burns. I mean, all these things have to be at least a minor reminder for Kayvon that there's like, well, you're not good enough. You're not even the guy. I mean, like when you picture in your head, if you were to just close your eyes and picture the Giants defense and you picture, who are the guys when you picture, the studs of that defense, start naming guys in order.
Dexter just Lawrence is like 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have Brian Burns probably, 2, and Kayvon. You're talking about just the defensive line or just the second?
Just in general, I would say if we're going best player, Kayvon's probably not the third that I'd list, but in terms of people that I'm thinking of right off the bat, I agree with you. The first 3 people I think of in order are Dex, Burns, and then Kayvon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. When you talk about the Giant defense, the secondary doesn't come to mind unless I'm thinking about question marks.
Yeah.
Linebacker, I have question marks. But the defensive line, I have no question. To me, this defense, this is a team that we've been warning, for a little bit now. Like, what's their identity? I think their identity clearly is going to be in a very good defensive line, a very good pass rush. That's going to be the identity of this team, I think. And he's a piece of it. He's a piece. He's a guy that, after his contract runs out, I want to bring him back. I'm not going to break the bank for him, but he's not a guy like Evan Neal who's like, well, we're just counting the moments till he's no longer part of our problem anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
I
really
don't,
excited to
I don't
see that already Abdul Carter is being forced onto the field in different scenarios. So like there were some notes that there were plays which you had Kayvon lined like far wide and having Abdul Carter on the edge and then having Brian Burns the opposite edge. I mean, that right there is a formidable line, especially if you're kind of rotating in a Dexter Lawrence as the tackle in between all of that. There were other plays where they had Abdul Carter lined up in a 3-point or lined up at inside linebacker on play. So they're finding ways to get all three of those guys on the field at the same time. So they're not viewing it as Kayvon's not good enough, I think, so much as they're viewing it as Abdul Carter was arguably the best player in the draft.
can I ask a philosophical question about this? And it may not be that much of a big deal, but to me, OTAs, and we've mentioned this on previous shows, are like getting rookies getting their feet wet, getting exposed to what it's like to be a professional football player, learning, the process or all this stuff. So should we maybe during OTAs just have him kind of like learning the very basics at one thing, and when we get to training camp, have him start moving around all over the place a little bit? Are we overloading him possibly for a guy who's just getting, established? Again, overloading. I don't think it's going to stun his career or anything, but like, does it make 100% sense to have him all over the place right now when we're really just doing glorified drills?
I think it does make sense because he's a player who was already making a transition in college. A B. I mean, we had the behind the scenes where they had him. They were grilling him on the board, and he was asking for more. Like, give me everything. I can do more.
Mm-hmm.
I can do more. So I mean, I'm not gonna from this position be like they're doing too much with him. When I could see this kind of being like he's one of those players where he's not a perfect edge. You know what I mean? Like he's not like a 6'5",
Right.
260-pound guy with long arms that has speed and the the bending ability around the edge and the speed to power and this repertoire of pass rush moves. And he's also really good in the run game and disciplined and all this other shit. I mean, like he's not that guy. So I mean, he was
Yeah.
always going to be like this versatile chess piece. Where especially in this year to begin with, I think there's going to be like a random assortment of packages that sort of highlight him, and in other ways he sort of has easy responsibilities and gaps and stuff.
Yeah. And again, I might be picking nits a little bit. I'm not going to go back, 3 years from now and say, well, if you would have been in that first OTA focused on X instead of X and Y, it's just a little, question,
No, but I think
question.
here's what I think though, dude. I think that OTAs is the time to experiment. So I
Okay.
mean, like it is sort of they're in shorts, and this is sort of like how much can he handle? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is a good chance to see if he retains stuff day to day, which spot, and if he is retaining it, now you can really start to see where he thrives or where vulnerabilities can be exploited, where the other guys fit in around him, and where you want to highlight him. Uh, those are things that I think can take a while to develop and understand about a player, especially as a player that's growing. So the head start that you can get on that, I think, is good if he's able to do it, and this is sort of the time to test it out. That's my argument for it. Now, on the flip side, if you get me started on moving guys around on the offensive line, I'm going to scream and curse my head off. So maybe I'm just a
Well, I
huge
think
hypocrite.
I think it's different. I think the offensive line, you need continuality. You need that unit working as one. Where I think you can kind of, you can get away with some of that stuff a little more on the defensive line, and or you know, your defensive line, your linebackers lining up in different formations or do for different things. I think every snap you have together with your starting five or your core five together is more important. Did I leave you speechless?
No, I'm just muted.
Well,
Um, I'm happy to see that they are moving him around and trying all sorts of different things early, and that it's stuck. Because I honestly think that if it wasn't sticking, they would have given up. You know,
yeah.
and kind of let him focus on one thing, or it would be so horrendous that it maybe got highlighted by one of the reporters watching it or something like that. But it all by all accounts looks like he's going to be a terror. I'm really excited. I'm hoping that Darius Alexander is one of those guys that like quickly shows promise in the rotation and stuff like that. I'm excited for this
Well,
defensive front to grow.
let's put it this way. I think the excitement I have for Abdul Carter is what a lot of people had for Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Other than that, just some OTA cleanup next week. I don't know if there's like another one that's coming up that's open to the media, so I'm not sure how much more we're gonna have. One thing I'm not really caring too much about is depth chart stuff. I think it's a little silly right now, but I mean, like, I'll keep some things into account. Jackson Dart getting some first team reps really tells me that they are working on him. You know what I mean? Like, this is the main project. Also, that's obvious. The other thing, maybe sort of that's kind of interesting, is Amir Smith-Marset seems to be getting a real shot at wide receiver depth. He's a little bit tall for the position, but I assume that they kind of have him penciled in as backup in the slot, I would think, right?
I would think so. I mean, I think, uh, well, who's out? We have like a couple of guys who are not in
Well,
the rotation right now
Malik
for wide receiver.
Neighbors is not in the rotation right now. So the
Okay, so
starters are Hyatt, Slayton, and Wandale.
okay, so you have pretty much most of a full boat of the rotation that are taking reps and everything. So we're not digging too deep because we need bodies. This is more we're watching him to see what he can potentially do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Um,
good.
I mean, and really, this just comes from my concern that I don't know what the decision is at backup slot. You know, I'm not really necessarily rooting for Amir Smith Marset. I mean, I guess I am. Why not, right? Like, if he can be a punt returner and slot
I'm
depth, that would be great. Um, I
I'm rooting
didn't.
for everybody to be so good the decision's impossible to make.
There
That's
you
what I'm
go.
rooting for. And
And
also,
now,
slot backup slot position that sounds like one of those classic he may not be on the roster yet guys.
yeah, correct. Very much correct. Which gives me classic anxiety. Um,
Sure. It goes against the rooting for both of these guys to be so good that it's a hard decision. So
yeah. All right. So let's roll back into our pens and pencils here. We're exiting week 6. I have the Giants at 3-3 with wins against Washington and Dallas to start the year, and then nothing until playing the Saints again. Cranky has a team at 2-4 as we enter week 7, traveling across the country to the Rocky Mountains on Sunday, October 19th for a 4:05 game at Mile High Stadium against the Broncos. What do you have, Cranky fan?
I have this as a loss in 10 because for no other reason, it's one of those places where we just never win, no matter how good or bad either team is. Um, I have this as a loss in 10.
Um,
That's all I'm gonna. That's all I got.
I mean, I don't really have a ton of analysis on this either, but
Yeah.
this is like the hardest. This is the hardest game for me, I think, in the schedule to really get a grip on. Um, on the one hand, it feels like this team is really overrated, doesn't it? A little bit. When you look at the roster, are you
Denver.
really like, yeah? Are you really like, oh man, I just don't see how the Giants are going to win that game. Like, I don't look at that roster and think that. I mean, I think that about every game the Giants are going into, but like, I don't know,
I
versus the other two games that they're playing this week, this episode, like,
I mean, there's a couple of things I would think they may want to do because they do play the previous Thursday, so they have a
mm,
couple extra days. Maybe get out to Denver a couple days early and get acclimated to the um, altitude early. That might help. Um, yeah, I think it's just because of, oh, well, Sean Payton's the coach. They must be really, they're well coached. They should be a really good team. But you're right. Get the roster and you're like, they're okay. Nothing fantastic about them. Are you in love with the quarterback?
No, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I acknowledge what he can do, but I mean, again, it's another one that I mean, it's a rookie quarterback. We could be looking at a severe sophomore slump going into
Mm-hmm.
this. You know, I nothing against the guy, but I
I
mean,
was not
if he were a
I wasn't high
slam
on him in
dunk,
college. Yeah, I wasn't overly high on him in college. I think he had the benefit of having a quarterback whisperer coach to really maximize his, rookie impact. But now we're gonna have a lot more film on the guy.
mhm.
We'll see. I think he'll have a productive career. I don't think he's gonna be. Well, let me put it this way. I compare him to how I thought about Drew Brees in college. Do you remember him playing at Purdue?
Yeah,
I mean, he was decent, wasn't great, and he wasn't physically like the greatest guy in the world. I thought he'd be like, you know, maybe a serviceable a serviceable starter in this league, and he became great. And I think he'll be like a serviceable starter in this league.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what his future is going to be. I don't feel like he's an all timer yet to make up for like the rest of this roster. Like, I mean, there's really not a ton that stands out to me. Maybe I'm blind in this, but I have this as a win in pencil. And this, I remember really agonized over this. So don't think that I'm sitting here thinking the Giants are great. But I'm looking
No,
at
no.
this and I'm like, I don't want to undersell the Giants either. Like, this is a good defensive front. We're just sitting
Well,
here talking about for a while, right?
you just said something very interesting, and it's more of a deeper theme. These are the type of games, or where do we think the Giants actually are at this point? If this is same old Giants, which I hate to imply that it kind of is, but it's like they're not winning this game in Denver. If you think they've turned some sort of corner, especially at this point in the season, you could see this as one of those. Well, this is the game they win because they're better than shit. They not be great, but they're not garbage. And I think this is one of those type of maybe 50-50 games that does that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how much Russell Wilson revenge game is going to come into this, but like, I'm seriously looking at like looking at Denver's roster. Is it so much to think that Malik Neighbors doesn't maybe go off in this game, or like there's some bomb in the third quarter to Darius Slayton that blows the direction of this game into a new direction. You know what I mean? Or just a sack fumble. I mean, again, we sat here talking about this defensive line. Like, this is a very good defensive front. We think with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Darius Alexander sort of moving his way in there, Chauncey Golston, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Abdul Carter, all of these guys in this rotation creating pressure. It's a lot of fresh legs. You're getting the best out of all of them.
You're going to need all those fresh legs in an environment like Denver too, with the atmosphere.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying this to say that the Giants are so much better than Denver's roster. I'm just saying, like, it's so easy to just look at what Denver did last year and be like, well, the Giants are just not better than that. And it's like, are we sure Denver's even that good? You know what I mean? Like, maybe we're propping Denver up too much and we're not propping up the Giants enough. I have this as a win in pencil, and I view it this way. It's going to be a close game, and I do think it's going to be one of those one play blows the change of the direction. The wind blows a different way with something happening in the third quarter with a big play, something coming out of the locker room, either on offense or defense. And I think that a comeback is being mounted by Bo Nix when a big defensive play shuts it down and the Giants come out with a stunner and they go to 4-3. But again, I have this in pencil, but that's what I had. This one I really truly agonized over.
Yeah, and I think it's not to me that I think that Denver's so much better. Right? I think it's just being there is what gives me a little bit of the EBGBs. All right, one more follow-up question about Bo Nix. If you're on a desert island, you have one quarterback. Do you want Bo Nix or Jackson Dart?
Oh, um, I guess Jackson Dart. I actually did like Jackson Dart coming out of college. I did not really like Bo Nix that much. Even though they both have faults, neither one of them is worth a super high first. You know what I mean? Top 10 pick.
Hmm.
They both have their faults. Jackson Dart is more my kind of guy. But why? What about you?
I liked Jackson Dart in college better than Bo Nix. I was never a Bo Nix guy. I didn't like him at Auburn. It was like whatever. Oregon's got a defense, an offense where anybody can kind of look good. So I'm the same with you with that.
Um, all right. So you have this as a loss in pencil, a pen. You have them Giants at 2-5. I've got us at 4-3 when we travel home October 26th. Home
And
being
then
the Northeast. Sorry, going
yeah,
to
and then we travel to Philly after we get home.
the link at 1 o'clock. Give me your thoughts, Cranky.
I'm going to give you my most shocking pick of the year. I am going to have this a win in pencil in Philadelphia. And my reason being is I believe I had us as a loss in pen to losing to them on that Thursday night game. I thought there was no chance coming off the short week and all this stuff. But I have a feeling just the way the NFL schedule goes and just familiarity with them. We're playing them, only 12 days after the last time we saw them. You know, Even if Philly has jumped out to a big lead in the division and a great record, they may be looking ahead, maybe slightly past us a little bit in a game like this. And I just have this gut feeling this is one of those 5 games in the NFL schedule across the league. You're like, you know, oh, 55% of the survivor pool got knocked out. And I have a hunch it's this game. And this is the game where, I think it's Russell Wilson's signature game of the year. Um, and I think everything just sort of clicks. And I think this is where you start getting a little bit of maybe the Giants have turned the corner a little bit. So this is the game for me. I'm going to put this one in the faintest of number one pencils, but a win in pencil.
I have this as a loss in pen.
Okay.
Um, I picture an Eagles team that started off a little bit weak. They have back-to-back games against the Chiefs and then the Rams, following I think the Cowboys. So it's like they don't really have like the I don't know. I don't know how good the Cowboys really are, but I think that the early two losses has them at 1-2 to start the season, and there's a lot of noise early on as everybody overreacts to the first couple weeks that the Eagles are not very good, and then maybe in the weeks after they play Tampa Bay and or somebody else that they should win against. But it's maybe it's not an easy game. They win with like some sloppiness or something like that. And I think like a lot of the noise, especially around the Philly fan base, that you hear the boo birds and it's getting attention. Now we have they knock us around a couple weeks later. They're kind of on the rise up, and I think the Giants are sort of stumbling at this point. It's almost Halloween. Philly
Mhm.
crowd is in full Philly crowd, and they just beat the hell out of us. I think this is one where we won the week before on something, but like then you look back and you're like, well, Denver was mounting a comeback. If only he hadn't thrown that stupid pick or something like that. You start looking at it that way, just the way they come out playing against Philly in this game. I think it's one of those ones where the crowd's raucous. They are on the upswing. We're kind of stumbling in there, and they just knockout punch after knockout punch after knockout punch.
See, I was thinking of this as the complete opposite of like, you know, Philly has a bunch of primetime games, playing us included. This is a 1 o'clock game. It's kind of snuck in there right around Thanksgiving. Um, Remember something also that the Phillies could very well be in the World Series right around this same time. So when that happens, you have fan bases that are, you know,
Diluted.
one one and a half eyeballs watching the game in front of them, and on their phone they're following along with this, or or have it on their headphones or something else, and So you may not have that raucous crowd that you normally do. And they know it's the Giants. They know they have One Jonas and all of that stuff. So I think there's a potential that we can sneak in there, and before they know it, fuck around and find out, we come away with a win. So that's some of my logic with this too.
Um, would there really be an October 26th World Series game at 1 o'clock on a Sunday?
Well, if it's not being played at the exact same moment, then they're definitely. Yeah, let's put it this way: when the Knicks are in this major run this last couple of weeks, my attention for my other sports was noticeably down.
I
I'm
mean,
not.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it may not necessarily be okay. They're both games are on at the same time, and they're both in the same parking lot and all that, but you're gonna be distracted, and it may
No,
get
I mean,
it
I
may
get that where it's one of those things where it's like, well, I'm really pissed we lost today, but the real game is on later tonight kind of attitude.
yeah, yeah.
I get that. Yeah, I understand that.
And let me throw
I
another one
also
at
wait,
you too.
hang on. I just want to throw something in there. I think that you're sneaking one in, win in pencil, on a Sunday at 1 o'clock thing actually makes sense. It's one of those things where, uh, it's one of those things where like the Giants play the Eagles on prime time, you're gonna get the worst version of the Giants. You sneak in a 1 o'clock game where most of the national market is watching something else, and oh, I guess the Eagles also the Giants. Anyway, back to other stuff. You know what I mean?
Back
Like
to life.
it
Yeah.
it, it always seems to slide under the radar or something. And I don't mean specifically the Eagles. I just mean the moments that the Giants don't look like buffoons.
And also think about the fan base too, the Eagle fan base. They have massive ownage on us right now. It's not like they don't consider us a rival anymore, but do you they can't take us as seriously as they did 10 years ago or whatever.
No, why should they?
So yeah, so this is not throw the record books out the window when it's Ohio State, Michigan, or some like massive, huge, close rivalry or anything. I think they're kind of taking us for granted just a slight bit too. So I think there's a lot of little pieces that if you add up, we could maybe sneak out of there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But in my narrative, we get creamed.
Okay. Nope. I could very easily see that happening as well.
Last one that we'll do for this episode. Week 9.
Right? Cranky Bowl. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. The Giants are hosting the San Francisco 49ers on November 2nd at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. This is prime tailgating. We're right where it's just about to get too cold. November 2nd, the 2nd to like the 13th in there. I think that's like the last of the tailgates before it's just like now you're doing like the pee-pee dance, but you're just cold. Like you're doing it like an hour and a half into the tailgate. You're like, okay, when are we going inside?
Yeah, great thing I have a 6 a.m. flight from Jacksonville that morning, so there'll be no tailgating for me, unfortunately. Sucks.
Tell me your other thoughts.
I think the San Francisco team could be potentially awful this year. Uh, you know, this is where you're going to start to see almost immediately did they make a major mistake spending so much money on Brock Purdy or not? Because there's a lot of talent that's left this team, and this team could be a shell of itself. The same theory I think I had for the Chargers coming east is the same one I'll have for San Francisco. I have this one as a win in 10. Do you hear that, cranky wife? I have that as a win in 10 over San Francisco. She's behind a closed door and not listening to me, but that's okay. Yeah, I have this as a win in 10.
Interesting. I think the San Francisco team could be. I think that every year we make the assumption. I think we might have talked about this when we were talking about the schedule and oh my God, there's no way they're winning. And like, yeah, I get it. It's a hard schedule, but it's all on paper. We're assuming things, and that assumption comes from what did we last see. You're right. This Niners team really could fall off a cliff this year with the talent that's left. And I'm going to be honest. Does it feel like Christian McCaffrey is due for an injury?
Well, it's been about 20 minutes. So yeah.
No, I mean, seriously though. I mean, it has been a little bit since he's had a strong injury. This would be the type of year, you know what I mean, where they're not steamrolling opponents,
Hmm.
but they're still really good. He's putting maybe a little bit more on himself, or the other team isn't quite as gassed as they were the last couple of years. You know what I mean, playing against them, and he has some serious ankle injury or something like that. Like I really could see, and if he's out for like say 6 weeks. I mean, what does that do to the structure of this team, this
Oh
roster?
God.
You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure.
Bringing in Bryce Huff as your Bosa replacement, I guess.
Is that going to keep you awake at night?
I don't know. I think that this team is overrated. Not overrated.
Well,
That's not what I mean. I think that this is a prime candidate for the team that we expect, that we pencil in. Oh my God, the Niners, they're really good. I mean, they could be NFC championship material. I mean, they've been close the
ooh,
last couple. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the last thing that we're used to. The Niners have been NFC championship material for the last couple of years. It's deteriorated. They weren't really that last year. It's not. It may not get better this year. It might get worse. I mean, I
oh,
think
it's
that
going to be
this one could
significant.
catapult. I mean, they could be really. They might be worse than Seattle this year. Um, Even I don't know. So I have this as a win in pencil.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the NFC odds right now, and I'm curious what people think because I think it was kind of like an assumed fact that this team is taking a major step back. I mean, I don't think there's a question of them being overrated this year. I think they're going to be properly rated as being bad. Their odds are
Well, I
they're
mean,
plus they're the fourth best odds in the NFC. You want to take a quick guess at who those three ahead of them are?
fourth best odds to win the NFC.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you before I answer the better teams. Um, does that number surprise you?
It does.
Okay, I
I
was gonna
that
say I
actually
felt like
that
that didn't go the direction you thought it would.
that makes me think that they are overrated. I honestly do. Well, let me do it a little differently because a couple of these are obvious who they're. Do
Oh, I
you
was gonna
think?
say the Eagles, the Lions.
Well, stop right there. Do you think the Packers have better or worse odds than the Niners?
I don't like the Packers either, but I actually think I like the Packers better this year than the Niners.
Niners have better odds than the Packers.
Okay.
Do you think Washington has better odds than the Niners?
Yes.
San Francisco's plus 950. Washington is plus 1,000. So they think that the books and the public think that the Niners are have a better chance to win the division.
Well, I mean,
So
listen. I don't feel very strongly about that Packers one. I do think that team is a little bit fake.
mhm.
I definitely think that Packers team is overrated, and they might still even win the division. You know what I mean? I'm saying
Right.
that completely honestly. Like Detroit could take a step back. I don't love Jared Goff. I do think that the fall off is going to come from him soon. You know what I mean? He is a hindrance at this point. I think he might be the hindrance there. Um, and Minnesota. You know what I mean? Without Sam Darnold, they're what are they just rolling with JJ McCarthy?
Minnesota. Where is Minnesota's? They're one right behind Green Bay. So the Eagles are the favorite at plus 380. Then Detroit is plus 500. In third is the Rams plus 900. Then San Francisco plus 950. Green Bay plus 1,000. Washington plus 1,000. Minnesota plus 1,000. The Bucks at plus 1,300.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that like, if you were to like tell me one team to bet on, it's not like an obvious favorite. That might be an interesting value. You know, throw a couple schmeckles on it and then forget about you made the bet. Revisit again in January.
Yeah, I mean that would be a dark horse pick.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Moral of the story is I think that a lot of people, if not just Vegas, think that San Francisco is who they have been. And I think that a lot of that is the stability of the coach and the retaining of Brock Purdy. I mean, you have Washington rated a little bit lower. It's a quarterback in his second year. There's not a ton there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Although
Hmm.
I feel a little bit stronger about Washington have a better chance because of the improvements that they've made to that team, and partly being Debo Samuel, right? Like,
I we did this in the first Pens and Pencils episode. I think there's two ways this Washington team can go. Take that next quantum leap and be right up there with the Eagles and Detroit for winning the conference, or okay, we got a little excited, we got a little ahead of our skis, and they either take a step back or don't really improve much from that last year.
well, I
So
mean, technically they competed for the NFC Championship last year.
yeah, but didn't it feel like it was all like? Did you feel like they were one of the best two or three teams in the conference last year?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's my point. Like they got there, but they were not really. You know, if we did a simulator and replayed that 5 times, would they be in that same position again? I don't think so. So that's what I'm saying. Are they going to grow into being legitimately a team that's playing, that championship Sunday, or are they going to step back and be like either a wild card or whatever? I think there's a that they're the most interesting team in the league for me this year coming up.
I agree with that. So that's gonna do it. I have us ending at this point going into week 10. The Giants at 5-4, which I would not have expected. I had some surprise wins in there. You have them going in there at
Little high,
4-5.
yeah, but feeling kind of good about myself right here. I think no, I'm feeling again. If I have to throw a storyline behind 5-4, it's I think
You have them at four and
most
five.
most of it. What's that?
You have them at
And
four
four and
and
five.
five.
Yeah, but feeling kind of good about myself because we won a couple games in a row. We just beat Philly. I'm tickling myself. There'll be no video of that, but I think that the storyline behind that's going to be that Russell Wilson has exceeded what we asked of him for this year to be. We're going to get the best version of Russell Wilson, the best orange juice we can squeeze out of this orange. And I think we see a continuation of the defensive line being really good. I think it's being a real presence to a dominant force that's actually impacting games. It's impacting what other quarterbacks who we face some pretty good quarterbacks what they can do. And I think that from this point forward, the rest of the season, anything we got at Russell Wilson to me is bonus. Once we get past the next 3 weeks, we'll really start to say, oh, is this team really going to compete for a playoff spot or not? But I'm feeling kind of good as we head into November right now.
Yeah. I if things go according to this pens and pencils, which is not really like an official like prediction or anything,
Right.
um, I think I'm feeling. I think I'm feeling confident about the roster, right? Like the team at 5-4, being at a winning record going into week 10, even if they're in third place in the NFC East, right?
Mhm.
Even if they're in fourth place in the NFC East, kind of irrelevant for me. That
Good
tells
division.
me. I mean that. The. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're in last place with a winning record. That's not bad.
Yeah.
But really, that tells me that the roster is working, and that clearly on some level I would think that the quarterback is working given the schedule this year. If they're at 5-4, it tells me at least a little bit that like okay, I'm feeling comfortable about Dable and quarterbacks. Probably, I think I'm feeling a little bit better about the roster that Shane's assembled. I think I'm probably feeling a little bit better about Shane Bowen on defense. Um, and it tells me that no matter what happens this year, it looks like the structure is around for Jackson Dart. Like everything seems to be in position for Jackson Dart to succeed.
We finally have good process. That's what it tells me.
Yeah.
We have process in place that appears to be working. Now it just becomes a question of upgrading talent to continue upgrading a talent, which all teams need to do, but we kind of need to do to become a team that's 500-ish, maybe slipping a wild card to being, you know, something.
So that's going to do it for this episode. We will see you next week, same time, same place, which would be Tuesday morning, getting ready for work on your way in. You can listen to us on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and of course Spotify. And I will also be on Giants Nation Pod, I believe, next week for a quick little mailbag. So be sure to check me out there with Mr. Robert Pig Skinner.
I will get my pen and paper and write letters to the Q&A for that. Maybe I'll have something to say.
And that is also on YouTube and all the listening apps, iTunes, etc., Spotify. So be sure to check that out as well. Until next time, go Giants.
Go Giants.